What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access, and we've been fortunate to have a great stream of guests coming through, and today is no exception to that rule, man. We got one of my favorites of all time, producer, genius, conceptual man, and has worked in so many genres with so many artists for decades and still putting in work. So without further ado, let's bring in tonight's guest, Sir Jinx.
What's up, man?
Man, Jinx.
Finally here, man. I made it, man.
Yeah, you made it, Jinx. I'm glad you made it, man. It's
had to get in my spaceship and come down from wherever the hell I be at.
Yeah, man. Jinx be planetary for those that don't know.
Just trying to stay away stay away a little bit and concentrate on my craft a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Jinx, we got so much to talk about that I'm excited to, because for an artist that has been in the game and worked with the biggest artists, help create the biggest artists, I'm excited that we're going to get into a lot of that today. And Jinx and I already talked about this before we even get started. We're going to have to do a part 2, because whatever we end up talking about, I've known Jinx since the 90s, right. And we've been to Hawaii together.
I used to call you Thorin.
Yeah, you used to call me Thorn before you learned how to pronounce my name. But it's all good.
I was thinking about that when I was driving.
It's all good. But the thing is, whatever we talk about today, we know it's going to have to be a part 2, because Jinx has too much that we can talk about. And I've traveled with this man. We've done lots of things together. Even went to Hawaii. Right. So, we got a lot of history. And more importantly, Jinx's track record is phenomenal. So
thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, that's why we're glad you're here, man, for Unique Access with Soren Baker. Yes. So, Jinx, one of the main things that I realized, and we're going to get to this in a second, but I just want people to understand this. In 1991 alone, you were a part of some of the biggest things in rap, one of the most important films in rap history, and also 2 of the most important albums that happened that people don't really appreciate, I think, for the magnitude of what they were. So let's break those down. We got the Boys in the Hood movie, Boys in the Hood soundtrack, Yo-Yo Make Way for the Motherlode. We got D.O.C. in the Mad Circle and the Damn Thing Changed. And we got Death Certificate.
Right.
All in 1 year. That's pretty remarkable.
Well, they wasn't made in 1 year.
Well, they were released all in 91.
Right.
I know you had to work on them.
We did Yo-Yo's record before America's Most Wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So when we did Yo-Yo's record, the song that Cube and Yo-Yo was supposed to be on was supposed to be It's a Man's World. That was going to be Yo-Yo's record. But when we went to New York, really didn't come up with nothing. So they took It's a Man's World off of Yo-Yo's record and put it on America's Most Wanted.
And what impact do you think that had on both for Cube and for Yo-Yo?
Well, You Can't Play With My Yo-Yo was already there. Mm-hmm. We just remixed it, and it I think it did a little bit better for her, because, It's a Man's World was like them going back and forth, like, the MC Light and Special K kind of thing.
Right.
But
I got a man.
Right. It was kind of a little play on that. But Yo-Yo had a bigger part on You Can't Play With My Yo-Yo. And it was talking about more than just her. It was talking about women and what she was doing, and you can't play with my yo-yo. Like, you can't play with me. Like,
right.
So I think that was a better impact for her.
Okay. But now we're going to take it back. So, years before all this is going on, coming up in South Los Angeles at the time in the early and mid 80s, for you, what was the environment like with blending with streets and with music and with trying to survive and all these other things? Like, what was going on?
Well, dealing with the streets, I wasn't really in the streets. I wasn't like a street cat like that. Like, I really, really was into hip hop. Like, that's what I really wanted to do. And a lot of people praised me for it. Like, a lot of guys that was from the street, like, was kind of wondering, like, how did I ultimately not get involved in that? So I was really deep into doing music and graffiti and breakdancing, and I was in the elements of hip hop. That's what I wanted to do. I was in hip hop when it was corny, when it wasn't cool. He was like a weirdo.
Right.
So that's when I was in it for that. I wasn't really in the street part. The street part of rap music came later.
Absolutely. So that being said, being that you grew up around that and in the environment, what was it about music and hip hop culture that made you gravitate toward that, as opposed to like a lot of people that you grew up with went the other way?
Well, I always loved music. I always dealt with music. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
I always dealt with music, and I think rap chose me. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I could have been doing any kind of music, but when I felt like I had a niche in the rap game, cause it was brand new, it wasn't no rules to it, and you know the regular R&B and jazz and stuff, those had rules to it, and rap music didn't have no rules to it. So back in them days, you know, I just wanted to be a part of something that I was good at. So dealing with the rap music, I was dealing with R&B. So dealing with music itself, I was always dealing with music. I was always DJing. I was always dealing with the Earth, Wind and Fires and the LTDs and the Isley Brothers and all that. So they always thought I had an old soul. So at the end of the day, when I started doing rap music, it was easy for me because a lot of guys didn't know how to pick beats to loop, and I already knew them. I was like, I already knew, all the songs. I have to go down the list of them, but I already knew it. So that's what I wanted to do.
And so how and why did C.I.A. end up forming the way that it did?
Well, how C.I.A. came is because we was another group at first, and we had another member in the group, and we was in a group called the Stereo Crew, and it was a guy named Barry, and it was Cube's sister's boyfriend.
Okay.
And he had the car. So, and he was older than us. And he was, he knew how to rhyme. He knew how to rap too. So when Barry went to the Wrecking Crew, when Clientele left, then he changed his name from Master B to Saphir, I think it was. And then from there, we changed our name. Well, Dre actually changed our name because he hated the Stereo Crew. He hated that word.
Why?
Don't know why Dre don't like stuff, but that was the first. What do you call it? Like the N.W.A. Like, what is that? I can't think of it right now, but that was the first. I got to think of the word now.
Oh, you think about acronym?
Yeah, that was like the first kind of acronym
right.
on that came out at that time, So when we kind of put that together, we kind of left another style to gain another style. So it was almost like we became younger being C.I.A. And when we was the Stereo Crew, we was trying to do like the guys before us, like the Melly Mels and stuff like that. So it's almost like we was reinventing ourselves because we had a record deal on CBS, on Epic Records when I was like 15 years old. Cube was like 16. So we already had a record deal, so most people wouldn't have changed their name. But when all that stuff kind of went flat, we changed our name to C.I.A. and then it was just the three of us. So I think that was the thing.
So how did you guys end up getting with Epic?
Through Lonzo.
Because that's what Wrecking Crew was also signed there at the time.
Lonzo had went and got the deal with Epic Records, and then they brought us along and they gave us a single deal. And you know the story about that song, right?
Yep.
On the Bad video.
But you should break it down so everybody knows the story. I know it, but
well, back in the day, CBS or Epic Records didn't have a urban department. They didn't have no rap. So if you listen to the Bad video, and when Wesley Snipes kind of come in,
Michael Jackson, for those that don't know,
Michael Jackson Bad video.
For those that don't know,
the second video after Thriller, the next big video, and our music was in it. So it's such a shame that Michael didn't know this. He didn't know that Cube was, a part of his life. Right. I always thought that he should have known that, but he never. I don't think he ever knew.
Yeah,
and then 5 years later, we blocked him out of #1. I think with Predator, I think it was, or Death Certificate, one of those records, because Mike was doing the History album at that point, so he didn't know that he was fighting with somebody that was in the gym with him already.
Funny stuff. So then, with all of that going on, I wanted to get Dre, of course, was producing you guys. So as you look back and stuff, what did you learn from Dre on the production side at this time?
I learned a lot. I mean, but when you have a different style, you kind of like don't want to mimic a person, because I think he was growing too, you know. And when I started doing music and following behind him, I was trying to be a little arrogant on my own. So, you know, dealing with the SB12 and dealing with the board itself and dealing with the knobs and mixing and stuff like that. It was basically the fundamentals that I definitely credit Dre for helping me with the fundamentals in the very beginning, and being in contracts and you know, and doing real shows. Like, you know, we was doing real shows with the Wrecking Crew. You know, we would open up for them, you know. So that was something I definitely contribute to Dre helping all of us, you know.
And that's obviously, of course, you've been in the studio with him way more than me, but I've always thought it was interesting when I've been in the studio with Dre over the years that a lot of people probably don't understand or realize that he's very interactive. Like, he's asking you your opinion. He's doing this. He's doing that. So, like, for people that don't understand, and I'm sure you taught him a lot of stuff too. And,
I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying he seems
I would
like
say inspired, maybe.
inspired. But what okay, maybe the better way.
But I wasn't around him like that. Like,
Right.
I was mostly looking at him being in the league, and
Right.
you know, Dre is not the person that was open for suggestions. You know, so
At that time.
Right. So
that was
he
the
had
evolution.
something in his mind already, and he had a squad of people that he dealt with. You know, rest in peace, L.A. Dre.
Right.
He was there. You know, Wolf Colin. I think that came later, but
Colin Wolf was later, yeah.
right. But he also had
Yellow, of course.
Yellow, but yeah, Yellow was there, and the Mike guy that
Mike
played
Sims?
that played the guitar, like on a lot of the D.O.C. stuff. So he had a lot of professional people around him, you know, to where he probably really didn't need my opinion.
All right. Well, there it is. But what do you think as you moved on, and then what was it like for you with Cube leaving N.W.A? How did that affect you as a person?
Well, when Cube first went to do the the N.W.A stuff, he asked me and KD. He was like, "Hey, you think I should do this?" And me and KD was like, "Yeah." And he did the same thing that Dre did. He came and he said, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget you guys. I'm never going to forget. I'm going to put you on. Whenever I get on, I'm going to put you on." So when he left, it just happened sooner than I thought. You know, I thought that was going to be a long
Process.
Yeah, right. But it didn't happen. It wasn't even a year, you know, when he was doing this stuff. Well, maybe 2 years, from 87 to 88. That's probably it. Then 89, it was all bad, you know.
Right.
I think so. When he went solo, you know, he just brought me along. And like I always say, when we went to New York, he didn't ask me to produce nothing. He just said, "Do you want to go?" And I kind of put my own foot in the situation and say, "Hey, you know, I got some beats." And he was like, "What beats?" And, you know, I played him a couple beats. I think the first one I played him was The Bomb. I played him that track. And then I think Once Upon a Time in the Projects, it was on and popping.
Right. So then with being there, working with the Bomb Squad and with Cube, what did you learn in that environment, being that you're in a different city or with different people that you didn't know? It's a whole other world.
Maybe more I learned from them is like sportsmanship, like learning how to get along with the team a little better, knowing how to utilize people that surround you. You know, let somebody else do their job. You know, I learned that through dealing with Bomb Squad, because everybody had a job. So everybody didn't do the same thing, you know, and I kind of knew, you know, I didn't know that, you know, Chuck D did beats, you know, right. I didn't know he did anything, you know, I just thought he rapped, you know, but he had a real part in Public Enemy and the sound of Public Enemy, and he dealt with Eric Sadler, and then, you know, the Hank Shockleys and the Keith Shockleys, and then there was a whole bunch of other people around that, played their part with the Bomb Squad. And, you know, because there were more people, you know, Leaders in the New School was there, right. Son of Berserk was there, and Young Black Teenagers was there. So it was like kind of like like a hip hop college a little bit, and they were good, So when we came in there, I kind of sat back a little bit and just saw how they got down. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what I learned from them. There's a little bit more teamwork. Use people around you.
Okay. And then with what the album ended up becoming, The Bomb is the last track on the album. But then, Once Upon a Time in the Projects, for instance, it was more in the middle, toward the second half, but still more in the middle of the album. When you were seeing the construction of the album and seeing that what you were doing was gonna be making the album, and this is a major project, of course, and all.
No, that happened way later.
What?
Me being a part of it happened later.
But what I'm saying is later, once it's being made and you're understanding that it's really gonna come out and it's really gonna to matter, how did that affect you both as a producer and as a person?
Well, I think where I made my when I made my mark with them is when they left me in the studio by myself.
Okay.
And because I didn't really have too much to say, I would just tell Cube, like, I don't like that beat, I don't like where it's going, it don't sound gangster, it sound like them. So they had one track up, and I think it was probably like 10, 11 o'clock at night or something. And they left me in the studio, and that's how Who's the Mac was born, because that's actually their track, but I produced it. I put the Trouble Man horns or the Marvin Gaye stuff in it, and then when I came back, they was like at all like, oh shit, we didn't know, you never said anything.
Right.
So then now my input meant a little bit more.
Okay.
When I added little stuff, and I can add stuff to their track and they can add stuff to my track. So I was a part of the team, but I kind of learned that from Eric Sadler once again.
And is that why the songs that you weren't listed as a producer, you were a co-producer?
Right.
Okay.
Well, we was all together. I mean, the way it's credited is the record company, but we was all kind of helping each other try to make this work, because to have Sir Jinx on it and then to have the Bomb Squad and Public Enemy, I mean, I was a nobody, so why would I even have a say so? You know what I'm saying? So I had to listen to them, and then they was like, oh, well, he's a youngin', so let's listen to you might be on to something,
right.
Kind of like how rap is today. You can't just, shoo it out, especially when they don't even know what I did. They don't even know about the Dre or nothing. They just thought I was just a guy hanging out, a sidekick. But when they start seeing like me moving the engineer and touching the board and turning stuff up and mixing it by myself and doing stuff, they was like, okay, well, he know a little bit more than we think he know. And they gave me more room till I was just in the studio by myself, and they'd come in and out or however the beat was made, But Eric Sadler was right there the whole time. He was like the pilot, letting me, like, it's my turn, is it my turn to fly? He kind of let me do all that.
And you mentioned Son of Berserk, because his voice is the one on Who's the Mac, right?
Right.
So he was always one, shout out to the band Get Spivvy on the Wheels, but I always thought he had such a commanding and distinctive voice, even next to Chuck's, which is saying something.
Right.
But as a producer, as a visionary creator guy, as you are, what made his voice work? Whether or not you had... Who decided to put him on there, and then also why do you think that worked so well?
We became friends.
Okay.
And just being in the studio, like I said, you start utilizing the people that's around you. And when I produced the Who's the Mac track, I just heard like a Barry White, like one of these motherfuckers is different. I just heard, and he's all the way through the track, like, yeah. I kind of saw that, so that kind of made me, just deal with just one of them deep voices, like a Barry White, like a Isaac Hayes kind of vibe, and because a lot of people think it's DJ Pooh on the thing, but he was just a mad cool dude. Like some of them songs that's on America's Most Wanted was his songs. Some of the songs were Young Black Teenager songs. So we was only in New York for 2 months.
Right.
So we made that all happen within 2 months. So everybody was around. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the funny thing too. Now people make a whole album in less than 2 months. The process is so different.
Not good ones.
Well, You know, that is true most of the time. But it's just the process is so different.
Well, the technology is so microwave to where the process is not restriping the tapes and retuning the board and buying new tapes. That, you know, people don't do that. People use a preset now to where, you know, you can make a whole Thanksgiving meal with one button, you know, and a little water, you know. Right. But that's what the people want. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying the process of these albums that last this long, that was a weird thing to do because most albums take at least about 6-7 months to make. You know, the good ones.
I was about to say to do it the right way.
Right. Yeah. And then you got to be in the studio. Everybody got to meet at the right time. But due to the fact the internet is around and, like I said, the computer is there, it's easier to bring a track up. It's faster. It's faster to do vocals. It's faster to, if you got what was it called? Like a 24 track Studer, you know, and then now you're going over the thing. You had to lose tracks or get another Studer or get a Sony to a 1/4 inch. You know, you had to, that all costs money and it all costs time. Right. So, and then to get music and musicians and all those people in, now you can, if you play the piano, you can play the saxophone. You know, you can play any instrument. Right. On with the, you know, the way they produce music today.
Which is wild.
Huh?
Which is wild.
Oh, well, everything has start being a preset. You know, when we started doing music, we was cutting people out. You know, we cut out the drummer. Right. You know, the drummer was pissed.
Well, most of the musicians.
Right,
if you wanted to.
Well, at the end of the day, the drummer was pissed because the drum machine was made. You know, so the drummer kind of lost his job. So same thing with a pianist. A person, they're going to lose their job because now they have cadence on the programs. And then you can just push a button up and, you know, a little, not a button, but a light or something. And now you can sound like you know.
You're
really,
Mozart.
Yeah, you can do that now. You couldn't, that wasn't invented then. So I think that it was just the time and the place to make America's Most Wanted the way it was. Because like I said, Cube had a lot of those raps. He didn't write them like right there. He might have adjusted them, but he came in there with books of raps. And they didn't have a bunch of music. They was taking stuff from people because, like I said, I took Once Upon a Time in the Projects from my artists. Right. You know, that was supposed to be my artist beat. So we all was just throwing stuff in and making it work. And it was some real good energy, man. I'll never forget that.
Well, it's definitely one of the best rap albums ever made. So, you know,
thank you.
We all owe you guys a lot for that, man.
I just think back on how it happened, and one of the funny things is the guy, we was living in this guy's house. So at some point, that was like the first Airbnb, you know. And he was a real person, a guy that what's his name, Sherman something, but he's the father for what's her name? She got her own TV show. She was the little girl that was on the Cosby Show. What's her name?
Rudy or Tatiana Ali?
No, the
Raven Simone.
Raven Simone show. When she had her own show, the father, we was staying in his house.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
So he would come in and out and stuff. He had Andy Warhol pictures and a whole bunch of expensive shit in that condo.
Wow.
Right. So it's just amazing how, like, if they did a movie on America's Most Wanted, people go crazy. Like, on all the people we ran into, like how me and Busta Rhymes became cool, and how me and Charlie Brown became cool. You know, just because they was in 510, that was the place that Public Enemy did all their production at. You know what I'm saying? So it's a dope story, real dope story.